Starseeds are the guardians of Terra who hold the knowledge of our ancestors. They are the inner earth beings that come to guide us with their wisdom. They are the enlightened beings from all over the galaxies that come to Terra like comets of light. They are the pioneers, the way-showers, and the architects of a new world. One built upon integrity, unity, and love. These are their stories. Join us as they share their journey of hope, as they break down paradigms and limiting beliefs, as they share their challenges and struggles to fit into the very society they are here to shift. The good, the bad, the everything. This is a journey of a starseed. All right, well, hello and welcome to my channel today. I am excited for our Journey of a Starseed series part 4 today, episode 4. I have a very, very special guest, and I'm so honored to have actually just met Susan for the first time. And I've invited her on the channel today because I have a large following that are autistic families, and they have a lot of questions. And although we're working away from labels, I wanted to bring forward Susan today because she is a mother of an autistic child who's actually much older now, but and she has a magnificent story, and she is taking the information that I have been giving to a whole nother level of explanation. And this is why I am really intrigued with all the information on Susan's journey and her website and her daughter Sam and her journey. So I invited her on today so she can tell us a little bit about her journey and explain to us a little bit what's going on with the Autist Collective, as she calls it. And so welcome, Susan, today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Honored to be here with you.
Yes, I am. I've been waiting for this conversation for a couple of weeks now, and I've been researching. So Susan has a website, moonoros.one. It's right behind on the screen here that you can see. And I love that you call it Revealing the Jewels of Autism. So most people that know me, I don't need to give a background on my work with delabeling children. But I find it very fascinating, your journey with Sam. And so tell us a little bit about how everything got started and a little bit of a background, and then we'll get into some really very important topics.
Okay. Well, yeah, as you can see, Samantha or Sammy is my daughter in the background. She's the inspiration for our website and a great deal of what we do. So, we call it moonoros.one because that's my middle name and my last name. .one. When we started the site, she was younger, and we wanted to kind of keep her protected under our wings, so to speak. And I know what Sherri means. We've gone back and forth. Do we use the label? Do we not use the label? And I think by the end of this decade, we are going to kind of outgrow the label, but it does kind of, for now, break people's mindsets about what autism is. And I certainly had those biases myself. So just to get into a little bit about background, I'm the mother, my husband and I are the mother of 3 children. Our oldest, Christopher, is 26, and he's diagnosed with Down syndrome. Sam is Samantha, or Sammy, I kind of go back and forth and call her Sammy or Samantha. She is our middle daughter, going to be 24 this year, and we have a younger son who is going to be 22 this year, and he's, quote, neurotypical. So, we've had the full gamut of these very different individuals and different, quote, levels of physical functioning. I would say my husband and I are both very, we're very 3D mindset. So when Sammy was diagnosed at about 28 months, um, got her into the early interventions, and she had, the full range of treatment of quote traditional treatment of um, speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, all those things. She would say some words. We would hear words from her off and on, but then we would never hear them, again. So this went on for, many years and still to this day at times. Um, and again, we were very stuck in 3D mindset. It's education, and you have to learn your ABCs and the developmental milestones, all those things. We were really caught up in that stuff. So uh, my awakening didn't start. Well, in a sense, it started in 1995 when I met Yeshua, in a sense, but that's another kind of story. I won't really go into that right now. But in 2008, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and that was a real eye opener for me. So I went through the traditional treatments. I did the full gamut, the really harsh treatment, chemotherapy, um, radiation, the whole bit. So, I wondered, what is this trying to tell me? And so in 2009, I remember in the summer, or while I was still going through radiation treatment at the time, like I started seeing symbols, and I'd heard about Reiki a few years before, and then finally found a Reiki master, and God pointed me to how to get a Reiki attunement. And so, I got the attunement, and that kind of opened kind of the flood doors, and started seeing lots of angels, and there were still symbols coming in, and all kinds of things happening. So Sammy was what, about 9? She was about 10 years old at the time. So um, and what I kept hearing was that I'm not whole. I'm not whole. I'm not functioning in wholeness. And so when I thought about that, and you think about what uh, cancer tumors are, they're your own body cells that have forgotten they're part of a whole system, and they start going off on and reproducing themselves, and eventually they kill the host. What can kill the host. So I thought that was an interesting thing that was conveyed, and but still kind of being a 3D mindset at the time. When I got the Reiki attunement, I was really excited, and I thought, all right, I'm going to heal Sam. Uh, Chris, our oldest one with Down syndrome, he's much more social. I mean, he needs a lot of assistance as well, but he's more social. And I felt like Sammy kind of being more detached, that she was more, quote, vulnerable in the world. And that's one of the fears of all us parents, with these very challenged children as we're raising them, is what's going to happen to them in the future. So I still wanted to fix her. I had to fix her because she can't go through life like this. She had extreme behaviors, would headbang, start yelling for no reason, or we thought for no reason at the time, and unexplained reasons, to us. So it was interesting because I coded to Reiki on her or something. I'm like, all right, we're gonna do some work on you. And I kept seeing these other things. So I kept seeing, like, one time she was showing me, like, the world is spinning, the whole world just spins around me. I can't make sense of it. And then another time, I would sit down and I started seeing all these butterflies and divas and, fairies. And, it was like she was showing me like another aspect of where she taps into, where she, exists. And so every time I would try, I would be shown something different. It would be a completely different, you're going off in a different direction. So It's like not my agenda. You can't have your own agenda, as you know, Sherri,
Exactly.
right? Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
when you go to do energy work, it's like, all right, let me be guided because
Yeah.
the, even a person come in with an intention of what they want to do, what they want you to work on, and then you're like guided somewhere else.
It never works out that way. You have to just, be open to whatever comes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's you're being guided, by your soul, of what you're going to be shown. So these kinds of things kept happening, and simultaneously, I was, awakening more and more. And my guides had said, we tried to get your attention before, like in the 2005, 2006, 7 time frames. I had no idea about all this ascension business going on. We were trying to get your attention, but we couldn't get your attention. And now actually I know kind of why, it was kind of shut down. There were things that happened to me before birth and in my childhood I didn't know at the time, but I won't go into that right now. But because they try to block star seeds from awakening is what it comes down to. So people
That's
who are sexually abused, I mean, there's, those kinds of traumas, they shut star seeds down, and there's, been quote an agenda.
targeted. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're targeted greatly.
yeah, they're targeted a lot. So um I was having trouble figuring out what was going on. But I started having these feelings, and luckily I made a friend who was really metaphysical, much more so than I. And we started talking more and more and getting into some of these books and things going on. And then we started finding websites and people who were um, channeling and doing these other things. And I was like, you know what? I can relate to what they're talking about because that's what I'm feeling. So that's when I kind of, it was around the 2011, 2012 time frame. Meanwhile, like I'm like, talking to stars, constellations, you know, these other galactic beings are showing up, angels are showing up, and you think you're losing your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially at that time, we're talking 10, 12 years ago. Even then, it was you were kind of out to lunch if you were started
Yeah.
talking about those kinds of things. And you didn't dare talk about it with other parents, in your area
True.
or to
Yeah.
your kids' therapists, right? Or their teachers.
Yeah, that
Um,
puts you on medication.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, I managed to stay away from medications. That's a good thing. I was like, no, I'm not going on antidepressants. I don't need antipsychotics. Um, but so fortunately, we continued on this path, and there I am trying to heal Sammy, and Sammy's having explosions at times, which I didn't understand, and banging her head at times. So around 2013, I don't know if you've heard of her, but her name is Susie Miller, and she is one of the first ones working with these quote beyond verbal autistics, so to speak. Um, and so I found her uh, watching an interview, and she was talking about these kids and what they're here to do. And I thought, oh my gosh, I thought I was crazy, but here's somebody talking about it. So I enrolled in her courses at the time, what she was doing. I don't think she does it quite the same way. I don't know. I'm not sure how she does it anymore, but uh, it kind of expanded my ability to connect to Sam in a different way. So that was, 2014-ish, 15 in that time frame. So Sam was still in school at the time. She was going to school and still having these explosions at times at school too. So and we managed to keep her off of medication. We don't give her any, and they don't really seem to work anyway. We tried one to kind of calm her down, but and no judgment on parents who choose that route. I understand if it's very difficult, and that's what you have to do, to maintain your sanity. And it also depends on your family system and a spouse, if you have a spouse or not, how supportive that person is, and what kind of support systems you have around you and those choices that you make. And I say that because I have a master's in social services, and so I understand that everyone is has a different circumstance in their life and different stressors. And so, no judgment if you do feel like you do have to give your child medications, or if you're on medications, really. So anyway, um, these things continue to happen. And I thought, well, she's not, quote, functional in the 3D realm, meaning she was still, her goals were still like the same goals, you know. Can they touch the yellow block? Can they touch the letter A? Do they know the letter A? This assumption that because she's non-speaking, non-verbal, I'm not even sure what the right term is, beyond verbal, that they're not thinking, that they can't function, in the world. So I remember at one point I thought, well, if she's a high vibrational person, maybe that's the best quote I can hope for, in a sense, you know, duh. But in 2016 or so, some of the other parents listening, or you might have heard of a rapid prompting method or letter boards that more of these um, kids are using to communicate or learn to express or communicate what they actually do know. And so in 2016, we did embark on RPM, and I was blown away. I mean, Sam is she's very intelligent, and really knew a lot of things that we took for granted, like standard education, math and addition, multiplication, all those kinds of things. She knew how to do it, and she was taking in information all along. And as a side note, our oldest son too, he's, quote, very limited verbally, but he has demonstrated that he does understand a lot more too with the letter boards, and can spell, and is able to have deeper thoughts than we had credited him for. So anyway, we did that for a while. And so she wanted it to be taken out of school. She said, I don't want to treat it like a baby. And she was like in her last year of, quote, high school. And so I took her out of school, homeschooled her for like a year. In 2017, so things start to get really challenging, much more challenging. So even more challenging for Sam. And I should back up a little bit. Between 2014, 2016, 17, in that time frame, I didn't realize it, but I was also being prepared for what was coming. And so I would get these attunements, these beings would show up, or the goddess would come and then attune me, or a dragon would come, and then you're like, all right, now hold out your hand, like, okay. So, they draw these symbols in
I'm
my hand.
laughing because I've been there where I've literally been in similar situations and they're like, do this or do, and I'm like, okay. And
Yeah, I know.
you
Yeah.
can feel that they're benevolent, that they're warm, and they have good intentions. It's okay. You just know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And on that note, actually, I early on, like in 2012-ish or so, there were like these other galactic beings, they said there were Syrians, and one of them said they were like Arcturians, and we want you to be our channel. And I was like, something doesn't feel right. So those doors I didn't
Yeah.
open. So there is, discernment with that. Just because some being shows up and you think that there must be higher, so that, I'm going to do what they tell me to do, doesn't always mean, if I don't feel it in the heart, if I don't feel it in the body, like I'm not doing it. Especially if you only
Yeah.
feel it in your head, there's something wrong.
Yeah. And channeling is like true channeling where you allow a being into your body is
I don't
very
do
dangerous. And I don't recommend anybody try that. I don't even do that. I've never done that. I've never allowed them to take over me. We just communicate telepathically or through energy,
Yeah,
connecting energetically. But yeah, you got to be wary of that. You don't give your body over to them. But anyways, continue.
yeah. No, it's a good side point to make, because there are people that make that mistake just because, oh, well, they say they're gonna download me with something, and I'll it's like, wait, just take a deep breath and see where it goes from there. So I absolutely agree. Um, but yeah, so they, were tuning me and doing all these things, to me. I was like, okay, what do I do with this? I don't know. And meanwhile, I always had this inclination to want to draw something. So like even when I was getting symbols, and Sand would tune me to a couple of symbols in like 2011. Um, and so I would always try and draw it. I had to draw it. There was some inclination in me to draw it, even if it was on PowerPoint. And I'm not, quote, an artist. I'm not trained as an artist or anything, but I always had this inclination to draw it. And then in 2017, things really started to change. And what I was noticing, like I would see this. I remember one time, I was like seeing our universe. It was like this ellipsoid shape, and it was like our 3D universe, first, second, and third dimensional harmonic universe, so to speak, in that language. And I didn't find out I was an indigo until 2016. So, uh, January 2016, I had met someone, um, and she told me I was an indigo one. Uh, and I remember telling her that Sammy had told me that she came in with 15 chakras, you know. And so when I told this woman, she said, "Yeah, she's right, because we actually live in a 15-dimensional universe, and so our chakras are connections into dimensions." Um, and so I was like, "Wow, that's interesting." Kind of put it aside and not knowing. And I remember in late 2016 too, I felt like my chakra cones, the density, they were like dissolving. So something was starting to happen. And then in 2017, I saw our universe, and then I saw like all these pillars coming down. You know, I was like, what in the world is going on? And so I started hearing from this, I just call them the Autist Collective now. Susie Miller was calling them, she was the one that coined the term, the collective consciousness of the children. But that's kind of broad, because there are even new kids now that are coming in that aren't, quote, labeled autistic, that are part of like another collective and what they're doing. So, it's like in scaffolding, right?
Yeah,
Um,
they come in groups. Yeah.
yeah, they come in groups, like the kids diagnosed with ADHD, but they have a different energy. They're, learning disabilities, that's what I was shown as well. They're kind of scaffolding the energy, what they can hold, to change the vibration, and so that these higher vibrational beings, could come in. Anyway, so I started hearing from the autist. I just call them Autist Collective, because they are a collective, a group of them as a soul group. Um, so they're like they're star seeds as well, in a sense, and they're from way out in the cosmos as souls emanating here, and so are we as star seeds. But there's specific ones that seem to have come together for a soul agreement, and I'll show an image later how they stay kind of coherent as a group. And these are probably the older ones, the adult ones, in this particular group anyway. Um, they started saying that we're moving to the next harmonic universe. And I was like, well, we're moving to the next harmonic universe. Okay, well, I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Yeah.
But okay. So I did happen to find one website called Energetic Synthesis at the time, and they're kind of talking about the same thing. We're getting ready to move to the next harmonic universe. So they, I remember in like May 2017 or so, I felt that this urge that I need to do a series on YouTube, or put them on YouTube. They were all for free at the time, called Planetary Synthesis. So we met like every month, for 6 months, and again, in hindsight, I kind of understand more of what we were doing, but at the time, I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll just do, what I'm being guided to do. And, I would try and draw images then, and I did these presentations. Um, and when I started that, uh, this collective, uh, they started coming in through my brainstem. and they started attuning my neurology to their frequency, in a sense. It's the only way I can say it. And then I could feel all these other kids that are part of that group, like all over the world, um, and they were, coming in. So one of them was showing me like this energy band that was going around this first harmonic universe. So our universe is organized in a sense into what it went into it was like five harmonics. So the first, second, third dimension is the first harmonic universe. Fourth, fifth, sixth dimension is the second harmonic universe. Uh, Seventh, eighth, and ninth dimension is the third harmonic universe. And then the fourth harmonic fourth harmonic universe would be 10th, 11th, and 12th dimension. That would be like where our avatar blueprint is. And then there's the 13th, 14th, and 15th dimensions, which are the morphogenetic fields. And so we were supposed to have a chakra into each of those dimensions, that would connect us, to keep us connected to the cosmos, so to speak. And it directly connected us to the mother and the father in in a different way than what we understand. So I know this is complex stuff, and I'll try and keep it simpler. So interject if you have any questions.
So I think this is helpful. This is why I invited you on, because like I said, this is next level. So some of you watching this, if you feel like you need to pause and rewind and listen to it again, I recommend it because sometimes it takes a few times listening to it. But I think that the collective is ready to understand another level of why they're here and their energetic significance and their journey and their role in our ascension is really important. So you're bringing in that next level of information that I believe that we're ready for, which is why I am really honored to even be able to meet you and have you explain this on my channel for all of those families out there that I have been in communication with that are looking for guidance and more information. So please continue. And so far, I think you're doing an excellent job. So go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I really share. I mean, I was really very impressed with all you've done in a very short amount of time. But like, you went out there gangbusters. Really. So really, I mean, kudos to you for. I mean, with
Thank
your
you.
kids and everything. I know it's not easy to do that. So anyway, um, so what they meant was that I thought like, okay. Oh, and the other thing in 2016, sometime in meditation, it was one of those moments where, okay, Sammy was like, all right, sit down and meditate. I was like, okay. Um, and during meditation, she was like, all right, hold out your hands. And I held out my hands. And she put the 16th, 17th, and 18th chakras, quote chakras, into my hands. And I was like, all right, well, what do I do with that? I don't know what to do with it. Um, you know, so basically we were getting ready to expand into an 18-dimensional universe, so to speak. But we were existing in a 15-dimensional universe. And I was surprised to find out that there were people that actually knew about this already, for a long time. That we were supposed to have 15 chakras. There were people that already knew that, so we were getting ready to move that first harmonic universe, first, second, and third dimensions, to the second harmonic universe of the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensions. So that's what they were showing me was happening. So in 20 second half of 2017, that's what was kind of is a preparation. And then by 2018, the beginning of it or so, we had shifted up into that next harmonic universe. So that means vibrationally, as you go up the dimensions, the vibrations of the frequencies get more refined and higher. So when we move that, then, if you think back, or in other people, right, you hear other people talking about the vibration's really different. There's a lot more, it seems like we're vibrating higher. And that's exactly what was happening. So for Samantha, though, it became even more challenging. I mean, she became I would say 2018 or so, like almost non-functional, where she couldn't even get out of bed. She would have to sleep on the couch. Um, and so I'd be sleeping in the living room with her, and she'd want the TV on all night, you know. Um, uh, and what I realized of what was happening now is that she was, it made, when that shift made it easier for her to like leave her body, you know, and go further out into the cosmos, you know. And so the living room space and like the TV, it was like a way of bringing her back, you know, like,
Anchor. Yeah.
yeah, she needed some sort of anchor because she was going way, way out. And there are other kids that I know that are, you know, doing the same. I know some of them travel with Sammy, you know, as well. So they were going way, way out into the cosmos, um, and basically opening access points, you know, so to speak. So she was very, very non-functional in 2018. And I remember like in June 2018, um, you know, we were very concerned, obviously, but we weren't going to take her to the doctor because she's had really bad experiences with hospitals. When we had to do any kind of medical procedures or anything, it got to a point when she got big enough, she started refusing to go into the doctor's office because her physically, you couldn't force her, you know. Um, so she's had bad experiences, I mean, really having to undergo anesthesia just to do teeth cleaning or some other exams. And, you know, we were really reluctant to do that to her anymore. So we just kept going the best we could under the circumstances. And the thing was, when she would go leave her body like that, go way out, it's like the body, there was obviously, you know, some spiritual connection still that keeps her body alive. But when she would go out, her body could go into like this flailing, uh, violent, self-abusive kind of stage where then she'd put her head through the walls and things like that, you know. So we'd have to hold her down, or my husband would, you know, would hold her, you know, to keep her safe. And it was then that, you know, I was seeing things happening, like either around her, what was going on, why she was acting like that. And so I started drawing, you know, trying to capture what I was seeing. And I noticed that when I drew it, she would calm down, you know, so it was like some kind of transmission coming in. And so I started drawing a lot of things that was happening and capturing it energetically. Uh, and I remember in 2018 as well, like at one point I had to open a dragon chakra under her feet. Um, you know, it was one of those moments where, and it's part of our light body. Like our light body is also have like a grid system into dimensions, and it's also how we can expand our consciousness and be able to hold more energy. It's through our light body we expand. There's a consciousness expansion that takes place with our through our light bodies. So even if the physical body can't handle it, so I opened this dragon chakra, and I was like, you know, I don't know what I'm doing, but that's what I feel like I have to do. And that was one of the attunements that I had received in 2016. Didn't realize it at the time because it was like I just did it, you know. I was like, all right, I seem to know what to do.
Yeah.
um, yeah. So, and that a dragon chakra is like an access into a deeper access into the cosmos. And what the autists said, the dragons are from their, you know, vantage point, and obviously my interpretation, my understanding is that dragons. So if you think about the mythology of a dragon, they're known to breathe fire, right? It's their breath. Uh, and a dragon kind of form is a way of source kind of embodying certain codes and things. So it's a way of carrying these codes to us. And So there was a lot more dragons that had, started to come in. And I know a lot of people are feeling dragons or talking about dragons too. They're drawing dragons.
All the children
Uh,
are seeing dragons. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you can even have a dragon body as a light body, part of your light body form. But this is how, codes are carried through. And so this dragon chakra is like an access into that. And I only learned in the last couple of years or so that Sammy and I were like we were sharing she was kind of sharing my light body. She was connected to my light body so that she could go out further. And then I was like a complement to her. But as we're now progressing, she's kind of individuating out, and we have a different kind of connection. We both have like dragon chakras, and we're communicating kind of differently now, in a sense, as she is, kind of embodying herself. Um, but anyway, uh, so a lot of our work between 2018 and now has been to draw. And, I was drawing on like PowerPoint or any way that I could. And then when Procreate came along as an iPad app, it makes it a lot easier now to do these drawings. So sometimes, I mean, I'm drawing frantically, especially when she was going through these stages where, it was like, oh my gosh, banging her head and all kinds of crazy things happening. And so when I would draw it, she would sometimes calm down immediately. Like as soon as I started it, she would calm down. Other drawings, she comes in and she'll like show me an image, transmit an image, and I'll draw it. And it doesn't come out exactly the way it gets transmitted. Um, but the drawing, I noticed that it's like doing energy work. Uh, so I'm drawing and I add things to it to make it coherent, to make it pleasing, let's say, quote, pleasing to the eye in some ways. And you can see a lot of our drawings on our YouTube channel. We have a Patreon page where I meet monthly for people who are interested in what we do. And I draw a lot of
You'll
a
you'll
lot,
share those. You'll share those with us a
a
sampling
little
of
bit.
those in a
Yeah,
minute.
some
In a
of it.
minute, but we'll get there. But Susan, just so everyone's understanding what you've said so far, it sounds like this this activation allowed her body, her soul, her essence to go farther into the cosmos to receive information, downloads, whatever it is that she needed to do. And so her
Yeah,
physical body, as a result of that, had a reaction to that of her not necessarily inhabiting that much of it, but because you two are connected energetically by you drawing the information or the I guess the energy or the frequency or the codes coming through by way it would emit a frequency to her physical body because you're in the same perimeter, you're connected through a grid, energy grid, and it would calm her down. So it sounds like there's activation codes or light language within your artwork that not only helps her, but I believe can help other people. Is that right? With the
yeah, that's a beautiful.
information
Yeah, that's a
embedded in it?
Yeah, that's a beautiful way of saying that. Yeah, that's that's definitely a big part of it. So yeah, I'm getting the download, and somebody told me, they said, you're like organizing the energy, like me. I'm organizing the energy by drawing it, and kind of grounding it or making it
Yeah,
kind of
because it
physical.
filters through you in a way that we can see it and it's tangible for us. And so Sammy goes out there and gets it for you. And then it goes through your filter, comes out in a piece of art. I think that's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and I think that's what some of the attunements that I had gotten, earlier was for. I didn't realize it, at the time. But so, it's like, I'm using my hands, and it's translating the energy, um, and putting it on paper, At other times, um, the other piece, that of how I had to cope with what was happening, because a lot of it was happening so fast, it was coming in so fast sometimes. Um, I would I started toning and using light language, just, you know, kind of more like a remembering, I would say, because I didn't know what else to do at times. Sometimes I didn't quite know what was happening. And so I noticed that when I started toning or using light language, it was like I was getting into the frequency of what might be happening. And so then I would start seeing, okay, oh, this is what's going on. Or I would see like, okay, there's something trying to come through, and there's this like an energetic kind of barrier here or somewhere. And so I would, kind of remove it. I was like, all right, I think we have to just kind of remove that. And then I would see, things, happening, and then I could draw it. So, I still walk around in my house at times when it's really intense. I'll be toning as I'm walking around because I don't know what else to do. You're trying to function.
Right.
I'm a mom with two adult kids who need, a lot of assistance. And so sometimes I'll just be walking around toning and trying to figure out what until I can get the frequency of what is happening. So it made me learn to tone and speak all kinds of crazy sounds uh, at times.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, so I learned by trial by fire. uh,
yeah.
and
Um,
so yeah, go ahead.
one thing before we move on, because there's so much, I don't even think we're going to cover everything in this one session. We're going to have to do a part two, I think, because there's so much that we need to talk about. But going back, you mentioned earlier that Sammy and many autist children have these outbursts, and they oftentimes get in trouble at school because they're hitting or they're kicking or they're banging their head. Can you go into your explanation or what Sammy has explained to you as to why that occurs? Because I know that there's a couple of reasons for it. I've talked about some, but I'd love to get your perspective for everybody.
Yeah, well, there's a few. I mean, there's a few things that could be going on. First is that they're energetically more sensitive. You know that. But what does that mean? That means their sensory system is different. They have what I would say is an advanced sensory system. Something that we have lost as humans, is that they are made to be more sensitive. So because what Sammy has said is their sensory system is like their communication with source, in a sense, and we talk about this idea that we are the expressions of source. We are God, as a source being. Well, what does that mean? It means that we should be in communion all the time with the source, the creator of everything. And so what we experience is directly kind of in communication with source. And so they're made to be more sensitive in that way. And that's why the traditional therapeutic systems, while they may work for a little while, and they work for some kids for certain areas and things, um, it doesn't quote change their sensory system. At least with Sam and some of these other high vibrational autistics, it doesn't really permanently change them because we're wired to be a certain way. And this is where we get into this idea of being a soul expression, right? That we're each different. We're each different, and we're made to be different because when we add up our differences as a collective, then we're adding to the collective. We each have something to contribute to the collective. So even among the autistics, quote, autistics, and these other sensitive individuals, their sensitivities are different. So even like occupational therapy, um, each child is different. Some may have more sensitivity to smell. Some may have more sensitivity to touch. Some may have more synesthesia. the mixing of senses, things like that. So that's part of it. So what does that mean when they're more sensitive? So you imagine that there's all this going on in the cosmos. There's new access points coming in, opening up, and so they could feel things going on way out in the cosmos that's coming. you know, it. So when they talk about okay, on this date or this full moon, um, you know, there's people will talk about, we're going to get this transmission, or did you feel that? Well, they may be feeling it 2 weeks before, it hits us. Um, there are also times when Sam, is agitated, unhappy about something. There's something going on, and I'll look, and she'll be hearing a sound that we may not hear. So like one of them recently was like uh, it's from the Metagalactic Core. There was a transmission of green Tara, which is a very much a heart energy. It was like a brilliant emerald, a liquid emerald, goldish energy. So that was being transmitted for us to stabilize the heart. Because one of the things that happened when that first harmonic universe was moved to the second harmonic universe, so the fourth dimension is our heart chakra. That's where we access the fourth dimension, and where we really, are connecting to our soul. So when we talk about heart and soul, it's that fourth chakra, right? And so this is why all this talk, to me, the last few years, everybody talking about soul, it's all about soul living. It's because now we've moved to that second harmonic universe. It's easier to access the soul in that sense, in the physical body. So those are some of the reasons. There's, things coming in from far out in the cosmos that we may not know about. They feel it, they could feel it, kinesthetically. They may be hearing sound, they may be seeing, if they're more sensitive visually, they may be seeing bombardment of colors and lights and things that, we don't see, or we don't know about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was very clear. And imagine being in their exact situation and experiencing all that and not having a way to process it or release it or even understand it in certain circumstances for them, and they can't verbalize it. If they're nonverbal, they can't verbalize it. So, think about, and this is a simplified metaphor, and those that know me know when I compare children to animals, that's because of love, because animals, I think, are just ascended themselves. So it's not an
Yeah,
insult
we have
when
a
I
dog.
compare children to animals. But think about a dog who, if they have a pain in their body, they're gonna bite their foot, and you think they're what is he doing? Wait, he's trying to tend to his foot that hurts, so he's
Right,
biting it.
right,
Or they head press, they push their head up against the wall. They might have a neurological issue there, or there's overstimulation. So they are going to have behavior that looks odd to us, but they're trying to work through that energy. And a lot of these children have surges of energy. They've told me, they're like, I don't know what to
yeah,
do with this energy that comes through. So they can't sit still. They got to move around, or they
right,
become overstimulated, and they don't know how to cope with it. And the professionals working with them for a long time didn't either. I think now we're starting to understand them more. But
right,
it's people like you and the pioneers before you and myself that are speaking out and trying to explain there's an energetic explanation for all of these behaviors that they have. We just need to understand them a little bit more instead of medicating them or saying that there's something wrong, because they are so intelligent, they are so advanced. And I'd love
yeah,
for you to talk a little bit about as well, because I've said something very similar, but I think, again, your way of explaining it is really beautiful. Why they have why they are less, why I can't speak, why they have a difficult time operating their physical body, because they like to remain closer to source so that they remain more pure. There's a reason why some of them on the spectrum that are a little bit more severe, we would call them, where they don't have control of their body. There's a reason for it energetically. So can you explain that to everybody from your perspective a little
yeah, a
bit?
little bit, yeah, sure. So they have different levels of connection to their physical body. So some of them may be connected down to the heart. They're they're not willing to embody all the way down, you know, most of them, although some of them have embodied, but these quote beyond verbal or nonverbal kids, you know, it depends on, you know, again, if you think about the chakra system as like dimensions, it depends on how far down they're connected into their bodies. And so their neurology is also different for, you know, for a variety of reasons. Sam has had all the vaccines, you know, childhood vaccines. Like I said, we were very traditional 3D people. Um, and she did say that affected her. It scrambled her neurology, but it also kept her from, you know, embodying uh, as well. So they're on a different system. They're connected to the physical body, but unwilling to um, connect all the way. And so the body, because it's like our soul and spirit coming through to connect to the body, uh, you know, in their various levels, even the star seeds, how much we're embodied, you know, in a sense. But they're less so. So Samia said she turned off some of her genes, right? So that she wouldn't conform to a 3D mindset. Um, they function more at an oversoul level than an individual soul level. So as a collective, they're more functioning at a seventh, eighth, and ninth dimension. Um, and so they seem disconnected because in a sense they are, you know, and it's by purpose that they remain disconnected. And so their neurology is in a sense purposely, as from a soul perspective, and their neurology is uh, tuned to remain detached and also remain connected to source. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. Yeah. You know, I think this 3D reality or this realm or whatever you want to call it is really difficult and challenging to be in, regardless of how you choose to embody, you know,
Yeah.
these that are coming in. We have the Autist Collective that came in as pioneers, you know, sooner, much earlier, when we were still really embedded in 3D, because they come in and they anchor light, and they are here to shift the trajectory of the collective consciousness of humanity, and they have their purpose, but their challenge is not coming in all the way into the body. For that reason, they don't want to be in the dense body. They're more likely to accumulate karma and be targeted by dark entities and energies, and they forget their connection to their higher self because of this reality. And then we have the new earth children that are fully embodying, as well, fully is not 100%, but as much as possible now, because we finally reached a point in our ascension and the frequency on the planet that, and our bodies are increasing in density. We're able to bring in more light. So more of them are coming in, but these children are having different challenges. You know, before my daughter was born, she came to me and she told me who she was, what she was going to do, and that she needed my help. And I channeled her for a year, 9 months to a year, before I got pregnant, and all throughout my pregnancy. And she's the one that taught me most of what I know. And
Mm-hmm.
she would always tell me, don't let me forget. When I'm bored, don't let me
Yeah.
forget. And I always thought, what an odd thing to say. But what she
Yeah.
was trying to tell me is, I'm coming in all the way. And
Mm.
so I am going to be in this 3D body, in this density with everyone else. Don't let the world taint me. Don't let me become tainted, and don't
Mm.
let me forget my mission. And
Yeah.
I always remember that to this day. No matter what, I always try to remind her who she is, because it is challenging. And I even see her struggle as an 8-year-old young girl with everything, the
Yeah.
influences. She still struggles, and I have to I feel like I anchor her back down and help guide her. So no matter if it's her that's fully present, or the Autist Collective that remain, only allow a certain amount to come through so that they don't go through what she's going through, they both experience challenges. And I
Yeah.
think it's divine plan, because it's dependent on what group that soul decides to come through, is what their mission is. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's not easy for any group right now, for
Right,
sure.
right, definitely, definitely. And I
And
think that's
go
one of
ahead.
the, no, oh, one of the things that I learned, is that if that's your sole mission, like you can't therapize them out of it. You know what I mean? Like with Sam, we couldn't, no therapy or anything could detract her from what she was physically made to do, you know? And I think that's a big lesson for everyone, even with my younger son, who's 22. And watching him grow up, realized like this school system, it's not good for anybody. I mean, he didn't have quote, bad experiences, but he was born in 2001 and, noticed, they're born into a different energy on the planet that you couldn't, I couldn't make him do anything that was not in alignment for him. You can't, it's not like these old days where you force kids to become a doctor just because you think, they're going to make a lot of money and they override their own inner natural desire as a soul, and, we have to look at that and say that that has caused a lot of people pain and suffering. And even if it's not on the surface, like we're seeing it now, I think people are starting to flip out in a sense, because everything that was hidden or buried deep inside is coming out. All those emotions that people were made to suppress, and they push drugs and alcohol and sexual pleasure, all these things to distract people and to get that little bit of pleasure that they're really seeking, which can only come from your connection to the divine, your own soul connection to who you are, and to be accepted, and so this is what we have been seeding, all along. And we're at this stage now where we're making this next jump, so to speak. So I don't know if you want me to talk about 4D and changing density.
Yeah,
um,
well, yes, we'll get to that too. But I think you made it an extremely important point there. And I want to talk about that really quickly because I get a
yeah,
lot of parents, countless parents. The reason they even sought me out, this was 5, 6, 7 years ago, because they had their child was just recently diagnosed with autism. They just had their, 12-month these things, and next thing you know, this happened, and they were, can you heal my child? I got this all the time.
yeah,
And of course, any normal or evolved energy healer will never promises to heal anyone. And we explained that we help the body heal itself. But I'm always big on free will. So I'd always say to the parents, well, let's see what your child actually wants. Because maybe they don't want to be healed. Maybe they're this way for a reason.
yeah,
And that's when I started my journey and really diving deep into all of this. And they don't, and what I learned was they're this way for a reason and they need to be this way. And so and I love that I don't love, but you went through
yeah,
the same journey with your daughter, where I remember you speaking about you were that mom that was like, I want to heal her. I got to fix her. I got to fix her. And then until you finally realize, no, she's not broken. This is how
yeah,
she's coming in to do her mission. And that's how so many of them are. And unfortunately, the population looks at them as there's something wrong with them and, oh, you poor thing, let me help you. But in reality, this is their choice. This is how they're doing what they need to do. And we shouldn't look at them as, oh, I'm so sorry for you. This is
right.
this is what they've chosen to do.
Right, right. And I mean, I've even, when it was really hard, some people would, would say, well, you're too open, you're too open. You got to turn it off, turn it off. You could tell the universe, to turn it off, not right now. And you know what? It's like, no, you can't. I mean, I could wish that, but again, like if Sammy is, doing something, like right now, she's still in bed because she's up late, in the middle of the night. Sometimes she's doing energy work, sometimes she's doing stuff,
Mhm.
Um, you can't make somebody go to sleep, that's impossible.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, I could wish that, this could turn off, I could turn this off. And again, must be my soul mission too, because we're some kind of we're somehow collaborating, the human me wants to turn it off and say, all right, this is too much right now. But it's not, if it's not in alignment, then it's not going to happen. And
Yeah.
it
But it's
takes
not
so
up to
many,
you.
yeah, it's
It's not up to me and you and the parents. It's up to them. That's what they came here, and they chose their mom and dad for a reason, or their caregiver, however they end up with who they
yeah,
end up with, because you had a contract. I mean, you have a contract clearly with Sammy to be her
right.
caregiver, her support, her confidant, her friend, like her mentor, and now you're speaking out in behalf of her. And I want to get into, I really want to get into this. You have this on your website that autists are high vibrational emissaries from the seven higher heavens. I'd love to get into that and the dark matter, and then maybe show some of your artwork. But first I want to go there. Can we talk about that a little bit? How are we on
Sure.
time?
Okay. Well, the seven higher heavens, yeah, she said, seven higher heavens is the like the 19th to the 25th quote dimension. It's my understanding. Some other people might have a different understanding. So it's like the 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Yeah, that's seven. Um, that's the seven quote higher heavens. And we're not talking about dimensions as in, the dimensions that we think of as here. It's kind of different. But it seems to be a field of God's source, and um, it's like a hub into the omniverse, is my understanding of it now, with the way I would look at it. So the omniverse meaning, there's much more beyond what we know here. So it's like a field of consciousness, and there are many vast beings at that level, and uh, many of the other starseed souls are probably from there as well, honestly, or even beyond. I was telling Sherri a little about this before, that as souls, if we're outside of time and space, then we're actually emanating from somewhere out in the cosmos, and we're sent forth from here. So this Autist Collective, though they're operating as a collective, they're kind of operating as a collective consciousness from the seven higher heavens level, and by doing that, they were able to open um, these other access points now, so to speak. So by being on the planet, right? If there's something way out there, if there's information and codes coming out, coming to us from out in the cosmos, there has to be someone to make it physical and human. There has to be someone here who can receive that quote signal. And so one of the things that I was shown is that even though they're not really connected to their physical bodies, they're physically here, you know, and so we have like an oversoul matrix, and then there's also a personal soul matrix. So the personal soul matrix, kind of looks like a star to me, and there might be like many fractal spaces in it. Um, so and as star seeds, we have the same thing. So um, it's like within that soul matrix, there might be an area where you're tuned to that frequency or that energy transmission, and so you're like receivers, to be able to receive it. The seven higher heavens um, also it seems to be where like the diamond suns of our genetic material comes from. The transmissions come from there, and again, there's actually more beyond, even that. But if you think of source having that the cosmos has a sort of organization to it in a sense. Some people say, well, once you get out, it's just all light, it's just points of light. But I would say, well, there has to be some kind of organization to the cosmos in a sense, because otherwise we wouldn't be organized. Like, how are we sound and light coming together? There's something that has to be organized. There has to be some kind of structure, for us to be in this matter realm. I know that's not a clear answer. It's just one of those things where it's a field, and so that's the seven higher heavens, and some say we have been existing in the seven lower heavens, and we're supposed to mirror. So that's like the macro in a field into the macrocosm, and then the autists actually also connected us into what we might call the seven micro heavens. I can show an image of that. But yeah, what was your other question? The dark matter. Is that clear enough at this point?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So the 16th, 17th, and 18th quote dimensions, like Sammy, handed me these chakras, access into dark matter, so to speak. And they're more like 16, 17, 18 dimensions are more like sound fields. And it's from like the mother, the cosmic mother, as I would call her. Opening into dark matter is a real game changer, because dark matter has always been there. It's part of our what makes up our reality, what holds our reality together. So Sammy had been trying to tell me about this for years. She would tell me about the is not space. There's a is not space where there's like a photo negative of you. If you remember, if some of you are old enough to remember, like when we used to develop film in a dark room, you'd get this photo negative, right? And so it's like the quote negative spaces, not negative as in bad, but the void. So again, kind of thinking, you have to kind of think kind of backwards. So if you are a soul that's beyond time and space, then how does that soul come through into a denser quote reality? Because this is kind of density, even from the 12th dimension, kind of coming down. You're coming down in density to be here, and that's dark matter. Without dark matter, you couldn't have these separate vibrations. You couldn't have like a separate body that's me and that's Sherri. It's the space in between the notes. So if you look on a keyboard, in between, so there's a note and then there's another note. How would you be able to differentiate one note from another? Well, it's dark matter that creates that space for that particular frequency to even exist, is really how you have to look at it. So we have a dark matter template as our physical body, and even our organs have a dark matter template. So Sammy had once said that we have this dark matter matrix or template that's created, and then it creates the space for the light to come through, right? And so the light comes through, and that's our physical matter. That's who we are. And so now we can even imagine that, we're sound as well, because we're accessing into 16th, 17th, and 18th dimension. So the archons, quote, these, I don't know, multidimensional dark forces, for lack of a better term, have known about dark matter. And so part of the importance of dark matter is not just our form, but our consciousness is also can be seated in dark matter, particularly the 16th dimension. So there are belief systems that are seated in that 16th dimension that has been operating our quote collective consciousness in a sense. And so it's even that, yeah, I use this model, the example a lot of our economic system, a model of scarcity, you know, that there's not enough resources. And so we value things that are scarce, right? So gold, they say, oh, there's only a limited supply of gold. And so the price goes up and down because if you control the supply of it, then if it's more in demand, then the price is going to go up, you know? Um, so that's been kind of operating collective consciousness. And so that is being, we can delete those consciousness seeds in dark matter. And what the autists recently said is they have seeded the dark matter uh, templates for the new consciousness, which is based on not scarcity, but abundance. And uh, and that we have to value things that enhance life, that are life enhancing, clean water, clean energy, clean air, all these things that will become part of our foundation for our economic system going forward. And unless it's seated in dark matter, you can't have permanent change. So that's one of the significances of dark matter. The other thing interesting that they recently showed me is I was shown is that so when the egg is fertilized, right, and you to make up your form to birth you, that imprints right into dark matter. So that zygote, that fertilized egg, is imprinted into dark matter, and it's still there. So the potential for the self-healing, you know, if we can access that, um, and our correct genetic blueprint or a cleaner genetic blueprint is, you know, is exciting. So this is a real game changer going forward. Any other?
It absolutely is, Susan. And that's why I wanted you to talk about the dark matter, because I think that's where we are right now in this
Mm-hmm.
ascension process, and a lot of what the Autist Collective is here to show us, and the others that have followed in various other soul groups,
Right,
that we absolutely have the ability through co-creation, through intention and belief, to shift anything that we want. But when we're in this matrix of lack of and gluttony and focusing on the things that we don't really need, you know, the materialistic side, enhanced through the drugs and the alcohol and all the other distractions, like you mentioned, it has been quite easy for them to distract us, manipulate us, and program
right,
us. But at the end of the day, right, we are ascending, our density is shifting, we're going into higher dimensional fields. They are helping us do that in so many ways so that we can awaken each one of us individually, and then collectively we co-create what it is that we want, and
right.
not what we don't need. And they no longer can control us anymore. And I think that is very scary for them, because they see that's what's happening, and they're losing control, which is another reason why they have attacked the children so
Yeah.
much
Mm-hmm.
especially over the last 30 years. But let's share a little bit of your artwork, Susan, before we go, because we've already passed an hour. But I really
Oh,
want to
yeah.
show some of your pieces first, and because I think it's important for people to see at least a sampling of some of the pieces that you have created.
Well, yeah, I'm just gonna I'll share a couple of messages like that I put on social media um from Sammy, or just, you know, just a couple of quick things here. Um,
While you're pulling that up, I'm going to put your links for everything below the description. I highly recommend anyone watching this go on your website and go on your YouTube channel. There is hours and hours of information that is important and relevant right now, whether you have a child with autism or not. So I highly recommend. You have so many great resources, Susan, and you put so much time over the years in creating these podcasts that are absolutely exceptional. So I'm going to put that link below, and I highly recommend anyone watching this, if you want more, you know, more Susan, I want to hear more, go to her YouTube channel, because there's a lot more that she has to say. So go ahead,
yeah,
Susan.
yeah. No, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, you know, I was doing some private sessions, but yeah, I just don't have the time. So yeah, the main way that we're doing any kind of lives and things are through our Patreon channel. And then we do a meditation at the end of the presentation. Um, to keep up with what's happening. But this was something in 2019 that's was transmitted. This is future Sammy. I was like, okay. Represents future Sammy, 2940 AD, so to speak. At least from the way that we're connecting, at least the way we're tracking time right now, because as you know, it's spiral time, right? Past, present, future all coexist simultaneously. And this future Sammy said, we do make it out of here. We do make it past this stage, but this decade of 2020 is the most difficult. And interesting, she said that the biggest, I asked her, is there going to be a World War III? And she said no, but the biggest challenge we face is bioweapons. This is a decade. And I was like, yeah. So that's one of them. So this, I do kind of quote channel messages from her energetic. We receive direct messages, sometimes long messages from her when she wants. But this is just like a snippet of social media posts. So before there was consciousness, there was omniscient omnipresence. This is the seed of sentience. All creation has an aspect of this sentience. So this is kind of what we're merging now, is what we would call consciousness in the mental kind of way, and then sentience, the inner knowing, the physical knowing. I mean, I think that's what animals have, is this sentience, that they're designed a certain way and they know without thinking who they are and what they are. So that's kind of what that means. Then I thought this was interesting. I forgot about this one from a few years ago. She says, I am not nonverbal, beyond verbal, or non-speaking. I speak the original languages of God. Humanity
I love that.
has become deaf. Time to wake up. So yeah, again, that, what do we call them? What do we, I said nonverbal or beyond verbal, non-speaking. Some people prefer these different terms, right now. And again, it's just whatever resonates for you at the time. This one was interesting. So I asked her, Sam, what does embodiment mean to you? It's for soul and spirit to be in divine union with the physical, so that I can direct the flows of energy into form and structure, which is harmonized and in service to heaven and earth. So yeah, moving into that direction of co-creating that's harmonized for all the earth and all living beings. Oh, this was a recent one. There's no mental and emotional body.
Are you clicking? We're still seeing the first image. Do you want to click on some of them so that the audience can see?
Oh, you can't see them?
No, we're still seeing future Sammy 2940 AD.
Really?
Yeah, are
That's
you seeing
interesting.
something different?
Yeah, I'm going forward. I'm clicking forward.
Huh,
Hang
for
on.
some reason, maybe try it again.
Yeah, let me try it again. All right, let me all right, so you see that?
No,
No, you still don't see that?
no, well, it doesn't show that you're sharing anymore, so go
Oh,
back.
let me see. Yeah, that's interesting.
There we go.
You
Oh,
see
here we
that?
go. Yes.
Okay, I won't do the larger screen then. Um, I had enlarged it. Yeah, so before there was consciousness, there was omniscient omnipresence. This is the seed of sentience. All creation has an aspect of this. So like I was saying, yeah, the sentience part is what animals, kind of have. And our physical bodies also have a sentience, to them as well. This one is, I am not nonverbal, beyond verbal, or non-speaking. I speak the original languages of God. Humanity has become deaf. Time to wake up.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah. And this is about embodiment, because she's kind of on a journey of embodying now that we're changing, shifting density, for the soul and spirit to be in divine union with the physical, so that I can direct the flows of energy into form and structure, which is harmonized and in service to heaven and earth. So these are flowers that I drew as she's blossoming. That's kind of sometimes how I see it. And so when I do it, when I draw some things too, I do things to help her as well. So she says, there's no mental and emotional body. There's only an information processing body. The human is a sensory organ of the cosmos. And that really shifts, your perception of yourself, and how you belong to the cosmos and are the part of the fabric of the cosmos. So this one I had thrown in, I put in, the autist showed me this like in a couple of years ago. It's an 18-pointed star, but their full star that they operate from as a collective consciousness to be coherent as a collective is a 5,832 pointed star. And that's 18 to the third power, which funny, numerologically, it also adds up to 18. This one is something that the autist showed me as well in 2019. So this opening would be like the 13th dimension. And so we share this chakra, 13th chakra, so to speak, with the earth. And it accesses into the Mother Arc gateways. And if you go through the Mother Arc gateways, it showed me these 7 micro consciousness universes, what we just call the 7 micro heavens now. And this is what actually feeds into the quantum field. So this is pre-quantum field energy, or transmissions. And this year they said we're going to be getting more into what these transmit, each of these somehow. But we'll see how that goes. But there's a complete replenishing process of the cosmos that is happening. And like I was saying to Sherri before our interview, I was excited to watch Lowell Johnson and his journeys into the Middle Earth, into the inner Earth, because some of the things that he was seeing there, like we were seeing like these dragon chakras opening in the middle of the Earth, even that connects into the deeper cosmos. So I was like, wow, that sounds like proof to me that things were been happening all along, some of the things that we were seeing. So
Yeah,
very,
well, I think we're just connecting right now, right? Everyone is getting their information and gathering, and it's all
yeah,
coming together as one beautiful package. So I think I think we're right on track. And I love Sammy's original picture, that, or the first one you showed of her when she said, "We made it, this is me."
yeah,
And I truly believe we've already made it. I've seen the future. I think it's beautiful. We just were in this period of where it's a lot of work, and we're healing and we're awakening, and it's a process. But I think the Autist Collective is here to help guide us as some of our greatest teachers. So they shouldn't be looked upon as unfortunate souls that are being punished for some karma. I mean, I've heard it all. Like they did something bad in a past life, so they're having to come back and live in these bodies and to repay karma. I don't believe in any of that. And so I'd love to have you come back, Susan. We'll have to wrap up for today, but if
yeah,
you're
I
willing, I'd love
understand.
to have you come back and do a part 2, because there's so much more to this conversation. And I think that this is a really important topic right now that we should come back again and share some more. But for now, I thank you so much for coming on today and sharing everything that you've shared so far. I really appreciate you and your Sammy and your journey together. Is that I will put the links below, but do you want to tell everybody real quick how they can different ways that they can get in contact with you, or just to your website and your YouTube channel? Is there anything else?
Yeah, well, we have our Patreon channel, which is www.patreon.com/moonoros1. So you can contact us there. You can follow us on, I do some posting on Facebook at times, and Instagram. I'm just under Susan.m.oros. Yeah, I post when I can, depending on what's going on with in our household. I share things, but I do try to do some blogs. So if you want to subscribe to our email on our website. I try to do some blogs and share that. The videos of a portion of our Patreon videos are up on YouTube for free. You just don't get the meditation part unless you're a subscriber on our Patreon. But yeah, right now, it's hard for me to do sessions. And interesting, most of the sessions that I have done is with people who are starseeds doing activations. Believe it or not, I've had a few parents that I've worked with here and there, but really appreciate all that you're doing. I think this is a great platform, and all these you're gathering lots of different information from different starseeds and bringing it together. So I think it's really, really priceless and valuable what you're doing, because it sounds like you're very, very busy yourself. So thank you very much. And yeah, I would love to come back because I think if somebody asks me more direct questions, I can simplify, some of the answers. Otherwise, I can just keep going and just talk about, all these woo.
Yeah,
what,
well, good point. For those of you watching, please put your questions in the chat and then I'll write them down. And then when we come back, we'll have some questions we can answer as well. We'll go through some
yeah,
artwork and some more deeper explanation of certain things and challenges that I'm sure parents would love to hear you talk about. So we'll wrap up for today, but thank you
yeah.
again. And thank you for everybody watching this. I hope that you got something valuable out of it. I'm sure you did. And until next time, bye everybody.